Welcome to Northwest Arkansas Investing Podcast, your go-to source for real estate investing in Northwest Arkansas.
Whether you're a seasoned investor just starting out, we bring you expert insights, market trends, and practical strategies to help you build wealth through real estate.
From buying and selling to property management and long-term investment planning, we cover it all so you can make smart, informed decisions in this fast-growing market. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back to Northwest Arkansas Investing Podcast. I've got Mr. Tyler Overstreet here with us and co-host Brian Wagers. And man, we're excited to have Tyler on. He's really kind of spearheading a lot of growth and helping shaping Bentonville and kind of what it is and what it will be. And man, we're just pumped to have you and thankful for your time.
So. Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're super stoked to have you. And I think a lot of people are excited to hear just about, what is going on in Bentonville and, where it's headed and kind of what are going to be those key pillars and is it a place that people should be investing and be, looking into the future. And so before that, I'd love the audience to kind of know a little bit more about you and where you came from, where you've gone and kind of how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been now with City of Bentonville for going on, I think, 8 years in October. Before that, I'm originally from Joplin, Missouri, about an hour to the north of here. I went to graduated from high school in Joplin High School in 2011, day of the Joplin tornado.
Holy cow.
Went to Missouri Southern there in town as a poli-sci grad, and then from there, rolled directly into doing city planning work for City of Joplin, my hometown. Worked there for about 3 years. Saw an opportunity open up here in Bentonville, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. So, and speaking of that, we just watched the Joplin Netflix documentary. Yeah. Insane. If you haven't watched it,
I was about to ask that. So you were a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My so funny story. My brother. I haven't watched it yet. I got to get in the right headspace.
I was going to say, I don't know if I which one.
Like it's in the background of one of those cliffs.
I am. So that was actually my brother. He sent me a picture. It was the picture of, they had a picture on the screen of Will Norton from graduation. He's like, hey, Tyler, you're Netflix famous. It was the back of my head.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and then actually I did a interview not too long ago with DBI as well, where they kind of, talk to me about that experience of going through the tornado and ultimately making my way here to Bentonville.
Holy cow, that's crazy.
Push through some adversity there. I like Joplin. We're not going to talk too much about Joplin, but I like Joplin too. Like as an investor, mm-hmm. I think going north out of Bentonville past Bella Vista, I think the opportunity will continue to grow that way for you. So
yeah, and I kind of saw that. Well, even when I was working there in Joplin, like the city has really, really good bones in the way that the street grid network is laid out, the sort of mix of housing and industry and commercial areas. Like it's got a lot of potential on a lot of different standpoints.
Yeah.
And my parents still live there, so I go back, once or twice a month.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, just being so close to it's obviously an easy trip around. But I think just as Northwest Arkansas especially continues to thrive and do what it's doing, I think other, cities around will continue to benefit. Tulsa obviously is a great city as well and is continuing to thrive. And so, yeah, I think Joplin is also in kind of that category as well. So
did you see Bentonville, like growing up in Joplin, was Bentonville on your target then to try to come and work for Bentonville, or did that?
I think that kind of evolved once I got into the planning space itself. Northwest Arkansas, we would come down and visit Northwest Arkansas, Pinnacle, and ultimately, much later, Crystal Bridges and everything. But I think the thing with Bentonville that stood out to me was having started in Joplin, I really, in that role, much smaller planning staff, got to do a little bit of everything from grant management to land use planning to economic development work. And I really fell in love with the land use and site planning side of planning, like current development review. So when I saw an opportunity open up in Bentonville to really specialize in that, seeing the pace of growth, the amount of cool stuff going on, it seemed like a natural fit to come down here and be a part of it. And that's something I even tell my new team members today is, and that was 8 years ago now, but even today, like in my mind, there's not a better place to be working in the planning field than Northwest Arkansas, right here, right now, and more specifically Bentonville.
That timeline is great. Like 8 years, I came to NWA about 10 years ago and then started investing in real estate 8 years ago.
Yep.
And people always told me like, man, you should have seen the last 10 years coming here. And like how much growth have we seen in this past 8 years? But people then were saying you should have seen.
Yeah. Was there ever a thought of going anywhere else to kind of to do something like that, or was Northwest Arkansas kind of on your radar, Bentonville?
Yeah, I think Northwest Arkansas, what's great about it, or what I personally love about it, it's close enough that, to back home, I can visit my family. My more extended family is in the Springfield area, but it can really serve as a great sort of central hub between X&A, the highway network. You can get just about anywhere in the country, and it's a great place to call home.
Yeah.
And, the kind of both, both from a living, working, and also from an amenities standpoint, there's not a whole lot of places like Northwest Arkansas at the size and scale we are. Like how many metros of 500,000 people can say, okay, well, we have a world-class university, we have the world's largest company, we've got a soccer team coming to town, an amphitheater, and the list goes on and on and on of the type of stuff that you can do right here in our own backyard.
I love that. I think about that all the time when I even just like go to the lake, like getting to drive 30 minutes to go enjoy the lake and then getting to go back home that night. Like not many people get that kind of opportunity just to, let's go spend an evening at the lake or something like that.
That's such a good point. Like even, I'm getting ready after work today to go mountain biking.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, stereotypical, working for Bentonville. But like the great thing about that is when people visit, I talk to them about, just the sheer accessibility of those amenities is like, there may be better mountain biking facilities in, the Pacific Northwest or Colorado or California, take your pick. But there's not a whole lot of spots I can hop on a bike in the middle of downtown Bentonville and be on trails within, less than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And I think those things will continue to evolve. Obviously, we've seen what the Waltons kind of want to continue to do and make Bella Vista specifically. So I think that's super fun. I like what you said about what you've been saying to your team and in that there's not a better place to be doing what you're doing, because I don't think there really is. I mean, other people would have arguments out there, but I think especially these next 10 years, 20 years in Bentonville and, really in Northwest Arkansas are going to be really special. And I think it'll be fun to see. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I think the amenities, we're always on like Northwest Arkansas is always on the best place to live, always at the top of growth of, best milking institutes. It's on that like high income earning, but you also have, it's still relatively affordable compared to the rest of the country. Like inflation is killing it. I saw an article this morning, like ice cream is up 33%. And I really felt that one. But I think everybody feels inflation, and I think Northwest Arkansas still remains affordable. And I think that's a tip of the cap to you guys in the planning department as how accessible you are. And I think what other kind of cities in Northwest Arkansas are talking about right now too, they want to be accessible. Obviously, Rogers is trying to figure that out right now, with roundabouts and some bike lanes and everything like that. But I think it is really cool to be so close, and you can just walk and get on a bike and be at a world-class museum. You can be at a cool downtown area. So
yeah, absolutely. So Tyler, I'm curious too, as we kind of get it more into what's going on in Bentonville specifically and what you're doing. Tell me about kind of what your planning philosophy looks like. What's the city of Bentonville's priorities are as we get into it. I think a lot of what we've heard at even the Skyline report that I went to last, I think Mayor Orman was there and she was talking about just kind of the connectivity and the livability and how we don't necessarily want to be sprawled out, and we want to kind of continue to promote density in kind of the main areas. So I know that's a very broad question, but give us a little bit of insight there, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we actually just wrapped up with a huge planning project in terms of our future land use map here within, February. So it was a year-long planning project, and from the beginning of that, our whole goal was promoting the type of development we want to see while preserving what we love about Bentonville. And what I mean by that is, really the whole purpose of land use and strategic planning and strategic growth is we know growth is inevitable, but making sure that it happens in a fair and responsible way so that as we grow, as new development comes to town, we're still preserving the reason why people chose to come to the community in the first place. And that whole effort, I think, is emblematic of really our city's approach to planning, and that we made it very clear it's not the planning department's plan. Heck, it's not even like the city, the organization's plan. It was meant to be a community vision. So we went all in with engagement over the course of the year, everything from pop-up events, meeting people where they are, going to, our various parks facilities, going to events, like making sure we got as much input as possible on what they wanted the future of their city to look like. And that ultimately culminated in what's called a future land use map, which the long and short of it, it just says how and where we want to grow, be it in various mixed use centers or hubs at varying scales at the regional, the city, or the local scale. The types of neighborhoods that people want to see, everything from the urban to the walkable to the suburban, and then ultimately the corridors that connect those. So, that's sort of our, I would say, vision and marching orders here in the next 20 to 25 years, is working through and really trying to implement that plan. And like I said, like engagement, communication with the public, that's the most important thing throughout this process. If you're not able to get that buy-in from the general public, your development community, your key stakeholders, plan's only as good as the people who are involved with it, and you'll lose momentum if people aren't on board with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. What do you see? That to me, that sounds pretty unique. To others, it may not be, but do you see other cities doing those kind of things with their citizens and stuff like that? Not to talk anything bad about other cities, of course, but just curious. Like, that seems very unique to me that y'all would be really pursuing the opinions of the citizens.
I think so. Our 2018 community plan, that was one of the big, I would say, critiques of that effort, was we didn't do enough engagement. That was brought up during the adoption process. And so we said with this next plan, okay, well, let's go all out with community engagement. And so we did. And I won't name names, but yeah, I've had other planning directors or others in the region tell me, well, dang it, Tyler, you went so all out. Now it makes the rest of us look bad when we don't do everything that you guys did. So it's, I take that as a compliment, and even internally we're like, oh man, now we've set a really high bar for ourselves moving forward, but
that's so
not necessarily a bad thing.
That's so unique. Exactly. That's so unique about Northwest Arkansas is you can have these submarkets within the MSA of NWA, like, keep setting the bar high. Like, and I think there's some good communicate. Maybe it could be, everything can be improved. Like, City of Bentonville, okay, 2018, we hear you, will improve. I think how do you think the communication is between the municipalities is? Do you think it sounds like it's pretty good? You can talk to each other. Is there room for improvement there? Or?
Yeah, there's plenty of avenues through which we've been able to communicate over the years, even since I've been here, be it Regional Planning Commission, which is the regional metropolitan planning organization that deals with federal transportation funding for the region. We're all members of that organization. Be it things like ULI, Northwest Arkansas, which many of us engage with and actually had the opportunity to kind of be a part of a learning cohort a few years ago now through a community of practice. But yeah, in general, I would say the sort of vibe and environment between the various cities and departments within them is one of, I call it coopetition. Like we're all cooperating with each other, but we're ultimately, I think, kind of competing and one-upping each other, which I think is a really healthy environment for us to live in.
I haven't heard that. That's a good one.
Coopetition. I love that. Yeah. Mark that down. Man, I think just looking through kind of what we had down, you've obviously been involved in some really cool projects. Crystal Flats, tell me if I'm wrong on some of these, but Crystal Flats, downtown Bentonville redevelopment and kind of what's been happening there. The Walmart headquarters coordination and growth and everything that's happened and will continue to happen there. The town branch revitalization plan, the ledger. What do you think is some of your most proud work and how that's kind of continued to, even flourish further than you would have thought?
Well, it's hard to pick between any of those.
For sure.
I have been involved with all of them.
Yep.
But, what I take the most pride in is like being able to see a project from like when it's for lack of a better word, putting a site plan on a napkin, or it's an idea in someone's head, seeing it progress through conceptual meetings, pre-application meetings, formal application, approval of the plan set, and then ultimately seeing that project be built and seeing people being able to experience it. So actually this is my first week on the job. I think day one, I'd done, some site planning during my previous work in Joplin, but my senior planner at the time, he's like, well, let's get you started. You can start reviewing some large scale. So some development plans. I'm like, okay, cool. And he hands me one and he plops it down. We're all digital now, but back then it was a paper plan set about that thick. And I'm like, and I'm flipping through it. And I'm like, what in the world am I looking at? Because, Joplin, I'd seen, your typical subdivision, drive-through restaurant, that type of development. I'm sitting here staring at the plan set for the momentary. That's like my first day on the job. I'm reviewing an extension or a downtown location for a world-class museum in Crystal Bridges. And like now to be able to review that, the redevelopment plan of that facility, and now see concerts happening, events, and seeing people enjoy that space. Like to me, that's what it's all about, is being able to see something from its earliest stages and ultimately see it, brought to life in the community and people being able to experience the type of development we get to see.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's obviously just based on you talking about it, seems like some really rewarding work and things that you obviously get to enjoy in the community as well.
Yeah.
And get to live out. And that'll be something that you'll continue to get to do along your career and lifetime here in Bentonville. I think that's awesome. So
trying to start on my kids early, like, hey, there's a new medical school here in town. You guys should
exactly
check that out.
That's right.
That's one not on at Alice Walton School of Medicine. Yeah. I think that is obviously you're involved in that, and that's huge. I think something we talked about on one of the past episodes is how the medical. There's obviously Walmart and JB Hunt and the university, but there's this other industry, this medical industry that is continuing to be. You have Little Rock that was historically has a lot of medical industry, but I think that is something that is kind of almost not slept on for people here, but I think that's going to be such a huge impact too.
Yeah, when I think about from an economic development standpoint, like the sectors and the industries that are really going to drive this sort of next phase of Bentonville, it's outdoor recreation, it's healthcare innovation, it's aviation with everything that happens with the Up Summit on an annual basis, and then of course everything in between with Walmart and arts and culture and everything that brings. So a lot to be excited about, a lot lot of cool stuff happening now and a lot of stuff coming in the very near future.
Yeah, I wish we had a better idea of. There's probably a lot of stuff you can't share.
Yep.
which is fun. So
Is the map that you guys put together, is that out? Do you guys like the 2018 plan?
Yeah. So and the next phase of that too is we just launched what is today? Last week. So phase 1 was the land use map, and you can find all the information about the project on planbentonville.com is our website. Phase 2 though is us really sort of cities often, that every city has plans in some form or fashion. What they don't often do enough is go back and say, okay, we adopted this plan. Do the codes, the regulations, essentially the rule book we operate off of actually allow this plan to be implemented on a daily basis? That's what we're doing now, is revisiting and overhauling our zoning and development codes to be a new unified development code, or what we're calling the Bentonville Community Code, which would be basically the rule book we're using when we're evaluating everything from a building permit all the way to large-scale development plans like the ones we just talked about. And making sure that the vision we said we were all about in phase 1 is actually actionable when we're reviewing development plans moving forward. We just launched that process last week through a public open house. Had about 60 people there, give or take. The draft, our sort of first draft of the code, is currently out for review on planbentonville.com. We're taking input on it, but over the course of this summer and fall, we're going to be taking input, drafting and publishing, taking input, drafting and publishing, trying to get as much engagement as possible on that effort as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting that it is a workable draft, and Springdale recently put out their future land use map too. I don't know if there were multiple drafts, but that's pretty cool that you guys are doing that and tweaking it.
Yeah, it's it actually, so during the land use plan portion, we went through a week-long process called Design Week, which it's kind of a whole the design philosophy. Well, it was a week of public engagement events. The design philosophy is called the charrette, essentially, and the idea is it is a highly condensed feedback loop where we'll propose something, get a bunch of feedback, change and reflect that feedback, get a whole bunch more feedback, change and reflect, and ultimately you can do that in a very condensed time window and get a much better result at the end of the day. And I think that's a philosophy we've carried through of trying to get as much engagement as possible, because to what I was talking about earlier, the more engagement you get, the better the final outcome is.
Do you see, like, from developers on getting things rezoned, like how does a rezone process work for someone, so for some of our listeners, and how open is the city open to something getting rezoned? Obviously it's case by case, very location by location.
Well, that's the big piece of that future land use map, is each of those what we call place types or land use categories have 2 or 3 zoning districts that align with that broader place type. So, if I'm looking at a piece of property, the first place I need to look is at the future land use map and get an idea of what zoning districts might be compatible with the broader place type and land use category, because the first filter we as staff use and Planning Commission uses is, does this request align with the city's adopted future land use map? And of course, our team, both myself and then the rest of our development services team, are always open to meet, chat with people. If you have something you're thinking about, if you're not sure, our doors are always open. We actually just not too long ago, some of my staff created a booking page where you'll see it in their email signature or on our website, where you can go online, click book a meeting with a planner, and it's plugged into our calendars with our availability, and you can schedule a 30-minute slot, and which is something that not a lot of cities have, that level of accessibility to developers, the general public, but it's something that's really important to us to do that.
I think it's super important getting the city's feedback, getting an engineer feedback, getting, involved before you spend too much money and too much time going down the path. I think, like you mentioned, the zoning is the first place to start figuring out, and sometimes you have to figure out that zoning, what that exactly means, and if it's able to be modified. So I think that's huge.
Just looking over like some of the blueprint for the future that you guys talk about, some of the goals that I have written down that you all are kind of at the forefront of: encourage mixed use and walkability, improve housing diversity and affordability, guide infill development to reduce sprawl, and update zoning codes to reflect current needs. I think a lot of the challenges that we see in other cities in Northwest Arkansas is just not really being proactive to the needs of the city, and therefore discouraging being kind of dense in areas that we want to be dense, and discouraging affordability, because it's hard to if we can't build, it's hard to stay affordable in a place that has so many people moving per day. So how do you feel like, there's one thing that you mentioned with just the accessibility for people to be able to get access to you guys and your services, but how else do you think or have you seen you all in partnering with developers and things like that you guys do really well compared to maybe others?
It's one, having that level of accessibility to be able to answer questions, but also one thing that both today and in the future we really want to pride ourselves on is having clear and consistent standards and clear and consistent processes. So making sure that regardless of the scale of project, regardless of what it is, like, it's very clear and understandable what the city needs, what the approval process looks like, and how do I get from, to harken back to what I was talking about earlier, how do I get from that idea or that concept to a finished product? And that's something that is, I think, very I've heard development is ultimately going to do what's marketable, what's predictable, and what's profitable. We can really impact one of those, and that's that level of predictability. That serves a benefit both for the development community, but also for the general public as well. As if the zoning code is comprehensible to the average person, if the land use plan is very clear about what the future vision for certain areas of the city are, then ultimately that means predictable outcomes for developers, for the city, and for the general public. And that's something that I think, as we think about what that sort of next 20 to 25 years of Bentonville looks like, we really want it to be, obviously nobody has a crystal ball. There's no telling what's going to be announced tomorrow, but wanting to have some level of predictability and wanting to guide growth in a thoughtful way, I think are two huge things for our team. You mentioned, walkability and mixed use. I think that's something, thinking about how we can encourage a variety of transportation options, make transportation convenient, no matter your method of travel, be it walking, biking, driving, or even, long-term transit. Thinking about how we can encourage a variety of housing types at a variety of price points, I think is huge too. And ultimately, like, how do we make sure that the type of development we want to see is ultimately convenient and actionable, and that's where our rules and regulations come into play, making sure we said we wanted this through our land use planning process. Well, how do we actually make it happen on a daily basis? I think are all huge pieces of what our team deals with on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think being it seems like the sentiment is that Bentonville continues to be very business friendly, and I think that's a great thing, which is awesome. So, random question. I think Mayor Orman mentioned this at the Skyline report. Bentonville has a bus system, right? Or did y'all test a bus system for?
We do. So, we and most all of the cities in Northwest Arkansas partner with Ozark Regional Transit as our regional transit authority. So we have available on-demand transit where if someone There's through the ORT app, you can order a ride from your phone, and there's a small fare to it. It's like a Uber, but transit version of it. And then the other bigger thing is we actually have a line. It's called BRX. It's the first inner city route within the region. It runs from Bentonville to Rogers and back.
Okay.
Runs on, I think, about a 30-minute cycle time. That's something we were operating this year, and hope to continue to see those types of efforts grow in the future.
That's awesome. A lot of people don't know about that, though.
I didn't know about that either. I mean, I think why it can be a challenge, just the way our roads are, to have like mass public transit, and I think that's probably why you are so conscious about walkability, because of those challenges. But I did not know about that either.
Yeah. And actually, Regional Planning Commission is currently in the middle of, it's called a transit alternative study, of seeing for various what we would call high capacity transit options like light rail, bus rapid transit, and others. What ultimately is going to make the most sense,
right?
By the 2050 time year mark.
Yeah.
Because to me, I think I could talk about transit for a long time, but mass transit of like a true regional transit route, that seems to be the missing ingredient for our region right now, of thinking about how do you connect Bella Vista, Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville, Lowell, like the whole corridor, and regional transit's the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's really at the forefront. I mean, tell me how much that's a conversation for y'all, because obviously that's the conversation with most, residents of Northwest Arkansas, is like, and how are we going to face, we need to widen our roads, or we need to expand our roads, or we need to connect more roads so there's less congestion and stuff like that. I assume that's at the forefront. Obviously, expanding and connecting, like one that comes to mind is like 8th Street now that it spits out right there on, I think, Big Tree or Drive or whatever, almost to Centerton, West Bentonville.
Yep.
And it goes all the way now through where the Gateway Park will be, and all the way out to the highway, which I think personally is huge. I'm not sure how it's affected traffic one way or another quite yet, or not, but it's bikeable, and it runs all the way through downtown, through Walmart campus, which is awesome, but it's also drivable and kind of connects you off of the main 14th Street that gets backed up and others. So is that, I'm sure with everything going on, that's at the forefront of conversation.
Yeah, I think that that intersection between land use and transportation is key. Of, ultimately, and that's that earlier talking point, or what we were talking about a minute ago, of that housing, recreation, employment, all being within relatively close proximity of each other, is how you start to reduce some of those trips and traffic on the roadways on the one hand, but on the other, that's where transportation options of making sure that our cities are walkable, that they're bikeable, that there's some level of transportation options, be it transit and ultimately drivable as well. That's how you create a system whereby people can, regardless of their transportation choice, they can get where they need to go in a convenient manner. And so that's something that I think is front of mind as we're thinking about our land use plan, and as we're thinking about what that next phase is, be it zoning and development codes, be it future master street plans and transportation plans. One way to affect that through the land use plan is through this idea of what we call neighborhood centers. So if you think about Bentonville today, there's really one spot in town that's cool, that people go to grab a bite to eat, to hang out, or whatever it might be, and that's really downtown Bentonville, the city square and the outlying areas. So what neighborhood centers are, it's more of a neighborhood scale. It's like a miniature version of a downtown where it has basic goods and services. And with the land use plan, what you'll see is there's neighborhood centers kind of interspersed throughout the city at places where it makes sense. And so what that does is, all of a sudden, if I live in far southwest Bentonville and I want to grab a bite to eat, or I need to grab some groceries, whatever it might be, well, I don't have to drive all the way across town to get in downtown Bentonville. All of a sudden there's a spot, conveniently located within a 5-minute drive or a 10-minute walk from my house. And I think that's something that's a small thing, but it could have big impacts in the future of trying to have it where not everybody's trying to get to the same 2 or 3 spots in town. Maybe there's a dozen within proximity.
That's awesome.
Do you take ideas from other, because that is so important with growth to have that, and that also speaks to how much Bentonville is growing, that we talk about other cities maybe trying to have their own square, like a Centerton or a Johnson or these others, but Bentonville wants to have more squares. Do you take other big cities and this city has different districts that like a Dallas or at Denver, or is there any are you looking all over the U.S. or any cities that you guys?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything. We have looked at, just as some examples, Austin, Texas has their active transportation department who does some awesome work. You've got, I was just in Providence, Rhode Island, and they've done some awesome stuff with some of their downtown redevelopment areas. We've had team members go to Raleigh, Durham for conferences. I think that's something that we're always, and it comes up often of who's our benchmark? Who are we looking at it? And the thing is, I think in Bentonville and in Northwest Arkansas generally, there's really not a region or a city quite like the environment we have. So what we do is we look at multiple cities, we take what we like, what their sort of best practices are and the lessons to be learned, and we try to replicate them or do our own version of it here, because it's hard to pick one test market when there may be things that cities do that are very good, very bad, and I think you can learn and take lessons from all of them. I think that's something that we're always, trying to learn and evolve and kind of learn not just from what other cities nationally are doing, other cities in the region, and maybe even learn some from things we've done in the past as well.
Yeah.
I think it shows for sure that approach. I think it's what creates it's what makes Northwest Arkansas so unique and always at a top 100. But I still think people are sleeping on us, even though we're at the I don't know what it is, 25 or 26, but I think it could be higher in what stats they're looking at if they've actually lived here. But just the people that come here not meaning to stay here that end up staying here. So many people from where I was born and raised, Cincinnati. You have a ton of Procter & Gamble folks that we're going to do the 1 to 3 year stint and they end up staying here, or you have people coming from these other cities and stay here. So I think that's really unique. Something for our out-of-town listeners is they'll realize that there's no really skyscrapers in Bentonville. There's no skyscrapers in the city of Northwest Arkansas. Will Bentonville ever see a skyscraper, or what does that prevent? What's that look like for Bentonville?
Yeah. That's something. Height was actually something we talked a lot about through the land use planning process. And I mentioned it earlier, but even to some extent, Providence, Rhode Island, and some of your major metro cities, even Cincinnati to some extent, it's, I think that sort of, even in a central business district, when I think about Northwest Arkansas and what makes it special, that sort of 3 to 6 story scale, keeps a level of walkability and a level of scale that it's not out of context with what people are used to. And so we're not even, in a lot of ways, with the exception of downtown Bentonville or uptown Rogers, we're not even past that scale yet. So I think it's, I don't know, that's a good question. I think when I think about sort of a height, even with the new code, our draft we've got out, I think the tallest we've got would be 10 stories. And I think an 8 to 10 story city in areas that it makes sense is about as tall as you would probably see Bentonville go. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but I think once you get overpowered with skyscrapers or whatever it might be, you start to lose some of the the character and the identity of what the city is meant to be.
You become a concrete jungle to my friends in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unique there.
Yeah, I mean, I think about all the cities in Northwest Arkansas, and it's something I really love about our region. Each of us has like our own like unique identity to what we do. Fayetteville has the university. Springdale is very much like a more industrialized workforce type of community. Rogers is very well known now for what happens in Pinnacle area and almost being like an entertainment district for the region. Bentonville is known for the square and that sort of like meshing of just small town charm while also having the world's largest company in our own backyard. And then Bella Vista with their focus on outdoor recreation and everything else in between. And I don't know, it's something I really appreciate about our region, and something that, as we think about it, both from a Bentonville level, but also for a regional level, we know we're going to grow. Growth is going to happen, but making sure that we keep what makes our communities unique as we navigate that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree.
So well put. Yeah. That's why I'll live and invest here until I die. I think I'm here for the long term. All for that.
Agreed. And going back to kind of those other downtown options, kind of, I don't know how you guys would phrase that necessarily, but I feel like that's something. I went to Nashville years ago, and I feel like that's the kind of the feel that I got in Nashville is like in Dallas, like you have like the Bishop Arts District, all that kind of stuff, but like almost communities that would have walkability to some restaurants and stuff like that. Sounds like that's what Bentonville is doing, and I even think about it for like the Walmart campus and all the retail that's coming to there. Wright's Barbecue, the Japanese restaurant, the Tapas Bar, or whatever. A lot of cool stuff happening. We live just south of the campus, and so that's all going to be walkable for us. We're pumped. So, but I feel like that's going to be a pocket where a lot of people will be able to walk, bike, connected to the trails, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that. 8th Street, is really going to become the key east-west corridor within Bentonville itself, between, you mentioned it earlier, Gateway Park, the old home office campus where it was recently announced that a new STEM university is going to be going in there. You've got new Walmart home office campus. You've got NWAC, and then ultimately the medical district announcement that was made within proximity of there as well. Like, you think about what that corridor looks like now, or even, what it looked like 5 years ago, and what it's going to look like now, and then 5 years from now, it's going to be a big change.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, Tyler, just as we wrap up, we'd love to kind of talk through some things that are exciting you the most for the future. So, obviously, there's a lot you can't share, but what do you see as, we've obviously got a lot of momentum in the healthcare space and the things that are happening over there. We've got a lot of momentum with 8th Street, which you just wrapped up on there. What are some things that you're most excited about? Maybe something you can tell about too.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it a lot, but like the big focus for us these next 6 months or so is going to be that new code. Because the big piece of that is, and our big goal is making sure that it's predictable, it's consistent, and ultimately, when I think about what the future holds, like that becomes our roadmap and our blueprint that we're following on a daily basis, is the codes, the rules, the regulations that when a development comes to us, it's ultimately what are the rules we're following when we're evaluating those requests. Like that's, I know it's very technical, but I mean, that's a huge deal of people knowing when I come to the city, okay, these are the rules I got to follow, and making sure that we, the city, and the development is sticking to those. The other thing, we talked a little bit about neighborhood centers. I'm kind of excited to see where the first one of those starts to develop. I think it's a cool concept. It's not necessarily a new concept, but it's new to Bentonville, and seeing like what does that sort of secondary miniature, walkable area look like? And, and ultimately seeing that, to harken back to what we were talking about earlier, seeing that come out of the ground, seeing people enjoy that type of amenity space, I think will be super, super cool.
Sounds like 8th Street could have potential, like over towards that area. I mean, even the home campus is even becoming its own square. Like, that's going to be a place to be. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is, and that's the cool part, is seeing these sort of secondary and tertiary areas of the city develop and seeing cool stuff happening and people enjoying these new spaces. I mean, gosh, we didn't even talk about the Greenway, but when you think about the campus, seeing like the members of the general public being able to ride right through the middle or walk right through the middle of the Walmart home office campus on our regional Greenway facility is such a huge deal, such a unique thing to us, and a unique thing when you think about your average corporate campus of having that kind of recreational amenity running right through the middle of it. I think continued stuff like that, be it in mountain biking, trail, and walkability and bikeability enhancements, are something you're going to see throughout the city in the future.
I love that. Tyler, what would you say to obviously our audiences, investors, and people that are interested in putting money in real estate or resources into real estate and other things in Northwest Arkansas, specifically for Bentonville? What would you say to somebody that's maybe on the fence, that might be looking to jump into Bentonville specifically?
I would say same thing. There's not a better place than where we are right now. It is, and there's not another place quite like Bentonville, Arkansas, with that intersection we have of recreational amenities, parks and open spaces, major employment, and also sort of that intentional future we've charted for ourselves. And I would just invite people to be a part of it.
I love it.
I think that's great. What would you say to a developer that is a new developer? I think what's also, we didn't get to talk about, but Bentonville is very open for development. And I had Blue Crane actually speak at a CCC event, and how they want to spur other, it's not just Blue Crane developing. They want actually to spur other, developers too, whether that's someone who's doing their first development, a one and done development, or someone who wants to, develop. So I think, an aside, I think that the city has done well with that, and so has some of the other developers. But what would you say to a new developer who's trying to take that piece of paper plan and build something in the last 24 months?
I mean, we're here as a resource. Our doors are always open. We're happy to kind of help chart people through that process, and we have some success stories with incremental developers who have, started at a very small level, maybe doing some single family homes, some infill, who ultimately have grown now into doing major, multifamily projects just in the time that I've been here. And that's something that's super rewarding too, of like seeing and knowing someone who might have started with doing some, what we would call single family attached or townhouses, or even just some single family infill, to now they're doing, 100, 200, 300 unit projects. That's always super cool to see, because it's they grow and they learn through the process, and we're learning right alongside them.
That's awesome. Well, Tyler, you obviously have an awesome position in what's happening in Bentonville. Bentonville is one of the most dynamic cities, I would argue, in the country. I think there's a lot of proof to back that, definitely in Arkansas. And I think there's a lot of really cool things coming. We really appreciate your time. I know it's not easy to step away from work or family or anything like that, but we're grateful for your time and sharing all your knowledge and kind of what's going on in the city. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciated the conversation, and happy to come back anytime.
Awesome.
Thanks, Tyler.
Well, thanks for listening to Northwest Arkansas Investing Podcast with Tyler Overstreet and Brian Wagers, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Again, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and list some sponsors off here. We're going to start with Whinstone Private Lending. This episode is brought to you by Whinstone Private Lending, one of the top private and hard money lenders now serving Northwest Arkansas. Whether you need short-term capital for a flip, a bridge loan, or creative financing, they've got you covered with very flexible products to fit nearly any deal, including 100% financing. What sets them apart is their deep expertise, fast response times, and ability to think outside of the box to help investors like us close quickly and efficiently. If you're looking for a real lending partner, check out Whinstone Private Lending. Link is in the show notes. Our next sponsor is Advantage Title and Escrow. They're a local company. They do great work. Specifically, Kayla Phillips. I can speak personally on this sponsor because I use Kayla for all of my transactions. It's been 2, 3, 4 years now, and Kayla and I have done a ton of deals. We probably do between 65 to 80 deals a year together, and they do a great job. The SOPs, so systems and processing that they have over Advantage Title, is just incredible. Clients love it. They do a great job from start to end communicating. When I give a deal to Advantage Title and Escrow, I know that it's going to be taken care of. There's no second guessing. I almost am able to treat them like a second transaction coordinator to my transaction coordinator that I already have. I know that they're going to handle the systems and processes correctly. As an agent, as a homeowner, as a buyer or seller, they do an incredible job of handling a transaction and communicating throughout the process. They do a great job with communication, especially Kayla Phillips over there. I would highly encourage you, if you're looking to close on a home, buy a home, if you're an agent listening, to use Advantage Title and Escrow, specifically Kayla Phillips. So you're going to reach Kayla best at 501-358-1601, or you can email her, Kayla, Cayla, at goadvantagetitle.com. Advantage is ADVANTAGE title.com. Our next sponsor is from Flat Branch Mortgage, specifically Colton Kennedy. Colton and I personally do business together, and he's a wonderful lender here in the Northwest Arkansas corridor. Want to invest in real estate or purchase a home, but feel like you need a secret decoder ring to understand the process? You're not alone. First-time investors, house hackers, and future homeowners, Colton Kennedy has you covered. Colton Kennedy with Flat Branch Home Loans helps people like you break into the real estate market without the guesswork. Think of him as your mortgage strategist, helping you turn "I wish I could" into "I just did." You bring the vision, he'll bring the lending game plan. Let's make your first investment a smart one. Colton Kennedy with Flat Branch Home Loans. Contact him today by calling 417-437-0086 or emailing C as in cat, K as in Kimberly, ENNEDY at Flat Branch Home Loans. That's FBHL.com. That's 417-437-0086 or emailing CKENNEDY at FBHL.com. Thank you so much, Colton.
Special thanks to one of our sponsors who I've worked with personally on multifamily commercial loans as well as business acquisitions. People's Bank works with entrepreneurs, investors, deal makers, and risk takers. They're the ones who see opportunities where others see obstacles. Whether it's a vacant lot with a plan for a thriving business or making an old space new, they work with creators who think big and are not satisfied with the status quo. People's Bank helps you build Arkansas deal by deal and brick by brick. They don't just see numbers on a spreadsheet. They see your passion and vision. People's Bank. It's where people come first. Member FDIC. If you're needing loan assistance, reach out to Dakota at 870-883-1706 or DHEDDEN at peoplesbankar.com.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an update.
Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for more real estate insights and behind-the-scenes content.
Have a question you want us to cover? Send it our way. And if you're interested in sponsoring the show, visit nwainvesting.com to get in touch. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.